base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. Get this thing started with the morning kickoff presented by Kickoff Coffee. If you didn't get a chance to see my Twitter timeline or Instagram yesterday, I was calling the UPSL Georgia Premier Division final over at the Atlanta United training ground. First off, props to Atlanta United for making their facility available. It was a great turnout for a existing established defending champion club in KSA Pro Profile and a newcomer to the Premier Division, Georgia FC. It's a club that's been around in a variety of names. They've played in all the local Latino League tournaments and leagues, and they've won titles all over the place. But they're new to the UPSL. They came in last season. They won the second division. They moved up into the top flight, and they won that last night. And it's a team that, the reason I wanted to start the show with this today is it's a team that you've probably never heard of, and a lot of players you've probably never heard of. And it goes to show the level of talent in local communities. And in Atlanta specifically, that's what I know best. There's so much talent that you've never heard of. And are these guys going to make it to the pro level? Well, actually, with Georgia FC, quite a few of these guys have already been there and done that at the pro level. A number of players played in the lower divisions in Mexico. But it's just a sign that there is a thriving soccer community that maybe isn't as well known, and people will come out and support it. It was cool to see a lot of the folks from the Spanish language media that I've known over the years, having been involved in these leagues and working with teams, and going all the way back to a Liga Lawrenceville U23 team that went to a national final, coached by Ricardo Montoya. And it was really the first experience where I got to know how much talent there was outside the mainstream. These are guys, whether it's like a U23 team like that from years ago, whether it's a team like Georgia FC. And look, KSA Pro Profile, same thing. You got a number of players there that might not have been noticed otherwise. And players have gone from that program and gone on to play professionally. But Georgia FC, this is what I know a little bit better, the players coming out of the Latino leagues and organizations. It's a thriving business, but there's also a ton of talent. And one of the things that I think soccer in the United States really has to work hard at going forward, and there's not an easy answer to this coming from both sides of it, they have to work to not have so many talented players, referees, administrators, coaches outside the mainstream. When we talk about the number of players in this country and the number of registered kids and all those kinds of things, the numbers are great. There's so many more that you just don't know. Go pick up, if you're in Gwinnett, especially if you're around a soccer complex that has local Latino leagues, go pick up a copy of Estadio. Estadio is, I believe, the longest running sports-specific weekly publication in Atlanta, maybe history. It's been around forever. Will Ramirez and his crew have done amazing work for decades upon decades. Go take a look at it. Scroll through. You don't have to speak Spanish. It's okay. Scroll through and look at all the pictures of games. But when you see the league tables in all of these leagues, and all of these different teams. Now, look, some of them might repeat because they might play in different leagues. That's okay, too. You're going to see a whole nother world. Not all of you, but some of you. A whole nother world that you know nothing about. There's players in the Atlanta United Academy right now. There's players with Atlanta United, too, right now, who that's where they got their start in leagues like this, for coaches like this. Clubs that are trying to bridge the gap. A club like Alianza SC, who produced one player who scored last night, Junior Sandoval, who has went on to have a professional career that's included stops in the NASL, stops with Marathon in Honduras, stops in the Colombian top flight. He's a little bit older in his career. He's had some knee injuries. He's playing locally and helping the next generation come along. But Alianza SC is a club that has also produced Jonathan Vial with Atlanta United too. We need more of this. We need more of this. And it's not purely a Latino thing. That's what I know best from my experiences. But every community is different across the United States. There is soccer going on you don't know about. And I really believe it's on the professional clubs because they're going to have the most clout. They're going to have the easiest way to bridge the gap. But it's on the state associations to really work hard to reach out. It's on U.S. Soccer to really work hard and reach out. Coaching courses in multiple languages, referee courses, multiple languages, player identification camps that don't identify more kids from the same clubs, but kids from new clubs. There are kids out there who would have a progression possibility to become professional that don't get it because of where they are, how much money their parents have, or what opportunities they are able to stumble into, because sometimes that's what it feels like. That's got to change. And I'm really thankful to have connected and working with UPSL Georgia and all they're doing. I've talked to people with UPSL across the board, and they get it. And they get that they're not Major League Soccer, and they get that there is a huge place for them in the landscape right now with a year-round league that tries to bridge the gap. The thing about soccer in this country is that you got turf wars that have happened since the dawn of time in this game, in this country. Go all the way back to the 10s and the 20s in different places in the country, and you got turf wars. You got turf wars on the youth side. They're really bad at times. They've been really bad as of late in the Atlanta area. New clubs popping up, clubs hating each other, coaches fighting, lots of backstabbing in politics. Who gets hurt in all that? The kids. The opportunities for kids, the opportunities for coaches to progress, because that's part of this too. Those are the ones who get hurt in all of this. What I would like to end with on the morning kickoff is this is a huge country. It has the potential to be the biggest soccer country in the world. Right now, it's about 20, 30 different soccer countries inside of itself because there's these little silos. And while maybe it's improved a little bit, you have a lot of people who protect their turf and don't look out for the good of the game. We need more people who are going to look out for the good of the game and creating opportunities. Not every kid's going to go and have a pro career. That's okay. Some of those kids are going to have a great youth career. Some of them are going to get to go to college. Some of them are going to play for their local high school and maybe win a state championship. Maybe just win a big game against their rival in front of 1,000 people, and it's a memory they have for the rest of their lives. These things are valuable. And a lot of those people go on to become the fans who buy the tickets to watch the next generation. Maybe they go on to be the administrators. Maybe they go on to be coaches. Maybe they go on to be referees. We have to create a better, more holistic, more welcoming, and more connected soccer ecosystem in this country. There's lots of people who are working really hard at it, but it needs to be a talking point across the board. There's a ton of potential. And I got to see some of that last night, and I see it a lot of times when I do leagues like this. And UPSL is one, NPSL. There's so many grassroots leagues. There's so many different things going on. They're all needed. And we love to talk about England and Manchester United and the biggest clubs in the world. And we love to talk about MLS and the U.S. men's national team. But the growth of the game in this country is not purely defined by that. It's defined by what's going on a grassroots field in a grassroots league that you maybe never heard of. And those players maybe don't get the attention they deserve. That's the lifeblood of this game. So as much as we can, as much as you can out there, learn about it, support it, go see it if you get a chance. And hopefully more powers that be will be able to make more connections to not have these different silos as much and get everything more connected and provide more opportunities in the game for everybody. across the board. It was exciting last night. It was a 2-1 win for Georgia FC. You had red cards. You had all kinds of chaos. It was a hard-fought game, and it was two completely different styles. If you get a chance, you can go back and watch that on the UPSL YouTube. Georgia FC now goes into their national tournament. Looks like they could have a game over in Augusta with I believe it's the quarterfinals of the Nationals that are going to be there, probably a doubleheader. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on all of that. Make sure you're following UPSL Georgia, UPSL as a whole. If you get a chance, follow all your local grassroots teams and leagues that are active on social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter. Keep up with it. Might be something that piques your interest. Might be something that gets you out to go watch a game, and you would be pleasantly surprised at the level, the passion, the excitement. Kickoff Coffee. Make sure you are following them and supporting them. Soccer Down Here 15 is your code. That gets you 15% off. 10% of Kickoff Coffee's proceeds, they go to support soccer-based youth development organizations. Talk about grassroots, that's getting into the dirt of the game, using soccer to benefit the lives of kids and better the lives of kids. Kickoff Coffee supports that. We support that. It's awesome to partner with somebody who does. So go to kickoffcoffeeco.com, use the code SoccerDownHere15. That'll get you 15% off. And then know that your money is going to help kids play soccer, but maybe learn a few things that might help them in life along the way. Let's get the show rolling. All right. It was a fun one last night. Sergei Demyanchuk was the referee, and he did a great job. I know that has been a little bit of a shock for some of you who've seen some USL Championship games, but he had a lot to deal with in this one. And, Jarrett, we've talked about in finals and just in general, but in big games and knockout games, referees want to keep players on the field, and referees will do everything they can to not send people off. And that's what happened in this game. I've never seen a referee try harder to keep people on the field and moving the line for descent higher and higher and higher to try not to send anybody off. I've also never seen a team in a final fail to find that line and keep getting people sent off for dissent. It was absurd.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because I spent my evening watching the Hudson River Derby.
Thought that might be your segue. That's why I went there.
Well, you get a red card in that game where I forget who was in the center, but they did a pretty good job for the most part because it was a very tough game.
Welcome to Red Bulls.
And New York City was not an innocent party in this.
Oh,
I know we associate that style with Red Bulls. New York City was throwing just as many haymakers as Red Bulls at each other.
Literally throwing haymakers or figurative haymakers?
After the game, literally.
Okay, well, that's good.
During the game, it was throwing a headbutt.
Yeah, okay.
Trying to get sent off as he's about to get subbed off the field. Mm-hmm. That was the best part.
That's always good. Yeah.
He gets talked into a headbutt as the other player is standing on the touchline waiting to get subbed into the game to replace him. Which sucked for New York City because Red Bulls takes the lead because New York City broke the golden rule of defending Red Bulls, Jason, which is when Red Bulls has a set piece, you can't lose the first ball. You cannot.
No, if you do, you better make sure everybody else is covered because Red Bulls are so good at that redirection.
And that's what
they do it so often. Yeah, it was a really well-delivered, well-taken set piece. Header one on the left side, and everybody froze. Runner comes through the near post, boom.
Lewis Morgan just tapping it in. But to the point about officiating, I mean, I felt like for a lot of that game, you had a ref who was calling fouls. He was trying to call the game relatively tight. You had a lot of whistles, a lot of breakup in play, which favors Red Bulls. But at the same time, it's weird because if you keep blowing the whistle and calling those, it breaks up play that fits what Red Bulls wants to do. If you don't blow that whistle, then you're allowing the physicality to result in turnovers where Red Bulls can feast on the counter. I thought he did a pretty good job with it. And, I mean, the red card, he didn't have a choice. Dude threw a headbutt. He actually missed the headbutt, but the intent was there. He didn't really have much of a choice with it. I thought he handled it pretty well, and then you get it boiling over after the game. You get a red card after the game for Red Bulls. it was a very weird game, but it's one of those that's, to your point, it's a really tough game to manage. Not unlike a final where you're trying to keep everybody on the field. You're trying to set the line and telling guys, hey, here's where the line is. Please don't. I asked you not to cross the line. Please don't. No, that is crossing the line. Please don't. You try and set that, and you try and maintain it. And because it was a physical game. It was tough. And the thing that kills you if you're New York City is after the Red Bulls goal, New York City was on top of that game. The equalizer felt like it was coming. Then you get the headbutt, you get the red card. Red Bulls go down, get a second goal, and at that point it was just a matter of curtains. It was a matter of just playing out the string at that point. You knew what the result was going to be.
Yeah, the other Open Cup match, Sporting Kansas City dominated. Union Omaha ends up being 6-0, 2 goals in the first half. Put it away early. No, I mean, that's a great run for Union Omaha. There's nothing to be sad about here.
I'm sad that it ended. This is one of those, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened.
Glad that it happened, sad that it ended.
Yeah, it's the difference between these levels. And look, when you get an MLS team that plays well and you have a USL League One team that doesn't have a good day, this is more common than the upset. This is far more common than the upset. It's
good.
Part
it's
of
a good confidence. It's a good confidence builder for SKC too. They get the win over the weekend. Then they don't fall into the U.S. Open Cup trap that a lot of teams have been falling into. Union Omaha's got a lot of MLS scalps on the wall this year. Mm-hmm. They're great. So, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Sporting Kansas City. They were ruthless in a very good way.
Yeah, 100%. Anything else on the Open Cup games you wanted to jump into, John?
You look at, just the indiscipline of Thiago Andrade in that moment. It's you're goaded into it. It was a moment on the touchline or the end line with Nealis. Nealis goes sprawling, and you're drawn into it. And you hope that the discussions that are had after this match inside the locker room, that it is one of those things that you've cost us this. Learn from it. Yes, I know it was an Open Cup run, but if you're Thiago, it's like, look, dude. This is a rivalry. You've been in these before. These happen. You really cost us in this one. I want to see how, if at all, this affects NYC, because I know we'll have Niko on in the second hour. Sporting goes to Seattle this weekend, and that's it could be an interesting one for Sporting coming out of that one. Then with NYC, they got the extra day, but they're going to Philly. I want to see how these results impact these two teams coming into their MLS action on the weekend more than anything else.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Ricky asked if either team went first choice between Red Bulls and NYC. I think everybody went first choice.
I think everybody.
Yeah.
I think
it's the quarterfinal.
You had a couple guys on the bench, like Maxi Morales was on the bench to start.
Sure, you rotate a little.
You rotated, but you went first choice.
Yeah. There's a difference. I think we sometimes
it's a cup quarterfinal.
It's a quarterfinal.
You're
more than anything.
Go first choice.
Yeah. You get past the round of 16, you're gonna go for it. Of course, if somebody needs a break or can't start or whatever, then you deal with that just like you would in a league game. But you're going for it at that stage.
And man, I'm gonna throw some strays while we do this. The fact that on the other end of this, the other side of this,
mm-hmm.
you're waiting for either a Nashville team that has been really suspect lately, or an Orlando team that is one of the most schizophrenic teams in this league. I'm absolutely going for it because I like my chances into one of those matchups.
Yeah. I see everybody's conversation. I guess I kicked up a hornet's nest and not the way I intended it at all. I'll get into that here in a second. So hold the thought on expansion of the territory and doing events in different places, folks. The other thing, too, that happened last night, Canadian Championship semifinal, Toronto did go first choice as well. They won. They beat Montreal. Vancouver won. So the Canadian Championship final will be Toronto and Vancouver. But Atlanta plays Toronto on Saturday. Lorenzo Insigne will be in town on Friday. He'll be speaking and all kinds of events, and everybody will be very excited. I'm sure he'll be at the match on Saturday, not in uniform. And you'll have some tired players in uniform wearing red for Toronto. So it could get interesting.
I think one of his first part of his car wash on Friday is at a local Italian restaurant.
Well, of course it is.
At a part of his itinerary, which I think is quite crowded. But yeah, the release we got from Toronto said, first thing is going to be at this particular restaurant. And then you had folks coming up on social media saying, well, why isn't he at this restaurant? Why is he doing it here and here and here and here? So,
and that's kind of what happened when I was talking about the grassroots, because this is the challenge for teams. Did you mean to do that segue, John?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
I'll take it, though. It was good.
Yeah.
Teams can only be so many places. And I was talking about grassroots and not singling out like Atlanta United has to do all this, or Charlotte FC has to do this in Charlotte, or Nashville has to do this in Nashville, because I've been on that side of it too. And people are like, why isn't Lorenzo Insigne coming to this place and this place and this place? Because he's one man. And there's only so many hours in the day. And there's only so many staff who can help arrange it and get him places. I would love to see clubs work to expand their areas of operations and events. It's not as easy as you might think, and it's not as easy to be everywhere all at once. That's basically impossible unless these clubs have staffs of 1,000 people, all being able to do their own things independently in different parts of the state, and it doesn't happen. What I will say is, yes, Alan Franco can do it. It's a true Modiflow. What I will say is that you would be surprised at how clubs try to bridge that gap. And I can tell you from Atlanta United's point of view, and what I know of it anyway, there was talk about they haven't done anything in South Georgia. Atlanta United's foundation and the GA 100 project granted Coastal Outreach Soccer in Brunswick to build a mini pitch, and was there to launch it. Thiago Almada, Brad Kazan, George Campbell, might have been one more, made the trip to Brunswick and were there for the grand opening. Look, it's one event, but it's also 3.5 hours away? 4 hours away?
4.5, depending on stops.
Okay. Maybe I just drive fast. It's a long way. So it's tough. They are doing the mini pitches all over the state, and it's an open process. And we've talked about it a lot because I want to see mini pitches all over the state. People got to apply, and they can be in Macon. They can be in Athens. They could be in Dalton. They could be in Augusta. They could be in Tifton. They could be in Vidalia. It could be in all these places. So that's one way they try to bridge the gap. Two, they do work with youth clubs all over the state. They make themselves available for coaching education. They do share ideas. I'd love to see more clubs take them up on that. It does come down to manpower, and it does come down to, Kevin said, getting the bang for your buck. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Burn says, I don't care if they do events all over the state as long as they scout all over the state. Well, look at the academy, Burn. I mean, they're scouting all over the region. You've had players come in from
Noah
Alabama.
Cobbs from Chattanooga.
Noah Cobbs from Chattanooga. Justin Garces was from Florida. You're doing all that. Kevin wants Joseph and Darren at his kids' practice field, and that's final. Good luck with that, Kevin. Maybe once, maybe sometime, but there's a lot of practice fields and a lot of kids. And that's just the challenge of it. Look, you want to do the best you can, but there's only so much you can do. And compared to other clubs around the league, man, I think Atlanta's done the best job regionally that I've seen in terms of trying to connect all these dots. I haven't seen that type of outreach in other places. The academy, like the scouting, I haven't seen that type of outreach in a lot of academies. Go ask Minnesota about their academy. They started the same year as Atlanta. See what you get. Yeah, they are scouting all over the state and other states. Absolutely, Burned. I just wanted to stress that because sometimes people read the comment and might not know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from, but got to stress it. It's, look, it's growing. It's all growing. Yeah. What I love, Kevin, and this is the next step for me, and I do stress this a lot. Atlanta United's one club with one staff with quite a few people on it, and their ultimate goal is Atlanta United. They're in a better place if they grow the game all over the state, of course. but they have to focus on the lower hanging fruit, the more bang for the buck, all those things, because look, it's a business. That hopefully, and I think we're seeing it, Atlanta United raising the bar at that level is going to create more opportunities like we're seeing right now. Georgia Storm in Carrollton, Georgia Revolution in McDonough, Apotheos in Kennesaw, LSA playing in UPSL and NPSL. They're in Gainesville. You've got teams from the Dalton area in UPSL, multiple teams now. You've got one in Calhoun. You've got a team in Vidalia out of Toombs County. You've got a team out of Macon. You've got a team out of Augusta. You've got teams all over aspects of the metro area in UPSL. You've got USL League 2 as well. Rockdale's hit with that. A lot of the Peachtree City MOBA in USL 2. So you've got the Southern Crescent hit. You've got the Northern OTP area hit. There's nothing stopping other organizations from using the buzz, and you're going to have a big buzz coming in 4 years with the World Cup, to grow those things at a local area. And what does that do? It helps make the connections even stronger for somebody like an Atlanta United, who we just watched in preseason play Georgia Storm and play Georgia Revolution. No other MLS club did anything like that in preseason. Nobody took one of those teams to another area of the state in Athens and draw a packed out crowd. Like, that's substantial. And is it bang for the buck in terms of relationships? Absolutely it is, because you have to prioritize. You have to focus. Team out of Albany. Absolutely. Thank you. There's so much with that. I didn't even get into the pro side with Tormenta Modiflow. Absolutely. That's there. Savannah Clovers looking to join NISA. You've got Dalton Red Wolves in USL League 2. You've got Chattanooga Red Wolves and Chattanooga FC right there over the line. Like, there's so much going on that Atlanta United, I think, even if it is indirectly, is helping. And where it fits to help directly, like we saw in preseason, it's happening. So I know it's easy to get like, oh, I want this, I want that. Man, what we have right now is amazing. And there's so much of it that you probably don't even know about. Again, like I said, like the Latino leagues, I didn't know anything about it until I was working with someone who was coaching there. And I got to know some of the players, and we did Atlanta FC, pulling players from there. And you've got so many former professionals playing in local Latino leagues in the Atlanta area. You would be shocked. Guys who maybe didn't play for giant clubs. We had a player with our Atlanta FC team the first year who played for Wanderers in Uruguay. Played quite a bit for them. He's an amazing player. I loved watching him play. Mean guitar player, too. That was also cool. Just, there's so much going on. And even if you are connected, you're not as connected as you think. There's so much. So embrace it and enjoy it. And let's stop the soccer griping that we all do. Because we all do it. Every single one of us. You listen to this show, I do it a lot. I have a microphone, so I get to do it louder. But it's easy to fall into that. But man, there's so much opportunity. What I want to see with what we've seen from a progression standpoint. And Jarrett, you worked with me at Soccer in the Streets. You know how that grassroots side can be so difficult to do these things. John, you know from the high school sports side, just connecting the dots and all of it. I want to see soccer do a better job of connecting dots. I don't think it does a good enough job. It's a different ecosystem. It's a different system. It's not American football where it's a pretty straight progression from playing at your local parks and rec to your high school, your middle school, then your high school, then maybe college, then maybe further if you go. That's easy. There's not, you don't have, 5 different youth American football teams and organizations in the vicinity that are all recruiting and charging thousands of dollars to get kids to jump from one to the other with the promise of winning the turkey trot tournament down the line. You don't have that. That's a little easier. Basketball, you're getting into some of that. Baseball, I know you've got some of that, Jared. I know you got some of the price tags that go along with it. Soccer is the most disconnected of all of it because of just the nature of it. Look, it's a business. Don't get me wrong. These local Latino leagues that do well, many of them are a very nice business. And people have made nice money in running these because they've been successful. They don't want to give that up. They shouldn't. Youth clubs that do well, it's a business. You could say it's not. Might be a 501c3 on paper. It's a business. Somebody's got to pay for the stuff. The idea of ending pay to play, well, then you're not going to have any play because somebody's got to pay for it. Are some people making too much money from it? Absolutely they are, and they're not delivering what they promise. That's my issue. It's not the money that is the biggest issue. It's the opportunity for kids to play if they can't afford it, but also the return. Because the return for some of these folks and what they are charging and what they're promising and what they're delivering, it ain't matching up. I'm sorry. You're asking a parent to pay thousands of dollars to play on the 6th level team at a club. No. No. Scholarships happen. Clubs do a great job with that. I think every club has some form of a scholarship program. Some do it better than others. Some realize that it's more than just cutting a check for a kid to play because you got to get them there. You got to deal with that. You got to treat them right. Can't treat them like they're somebody different because they couldn't afford to play. There's so many elements of all of that. The dots have to be connected better from an American soccer perspective. And it's not going to be as easy as the other sports have it. It's a different landscape. There's no easy fix. There's no end pay to play. There's no let's sign this sheet of paper and it's all sorted out. It's going to take a lot of hard work, and it's going to take a lot of people thinking about their business because they have to make money and they have to keep their jobs and they have to do these things. They have to think about their business, committing a little bit of time off to the side, maybe as part of their business, maybe in addition to growing the game and connecting the dots. That's what it's going to take because it's not going to happen overnight and it's not going to happen easily. You guys know the landscape in other sports. I don't think there's a direct comparison because of the nature of development and the nature of how soccer has grown in this country and maybe the most turf wars of the turf wars. But I hope it changes at some point. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's going to take more people looking outside of themselves and their own interests to do that. I broke Jarrett.
Yeah,
and John.
I was about to say you broke John too.
That's nothing new.
Yeah, even like looking at Kevin talking about kids in youth leagues for $500 a year at least.
Yeah,
you get
that's kits. Yeah, that's just the uniforms.
That's just the uniforms. It's cost prohibitive a lot of times, and I think we've beaten this point to death over the years. But it
needs to be beaten more.
I know it does. That's the tragedy of it is the fact that we've beaten to death over the years, and it still has to be beaten to death even more. Beat the ground that the point once laid upon, but it's tough. It's tough to kind of I feel like it's tough even when you're a kid or a parent to kind of parse through and get an idea of, what is best for your kid? What's best for you if you are the kid? What's the best situation? What's going to be the best genuine situation of someone who's actually looking out for your development as a player and as a person and not just trying to make some bucks and trying to differentiate and sift through what's legitimate and what's just a waste of time and money. Because I feel like it'd be so hard to tell, and even listening to other people's testimonies, it can vary by person. You got to find the right fit, but you also have to find the right concept of people who are actually trying to do right by you.
Bart, trust me, you don't have it good with travel soccer. Travel baseball has some stupid things to it too. Don't get me wrong, but it's not in a better place than travel soccer. I will fight you on that one. I've seen it. I've actually seen it firsthand, where you had to pay to park at a tournament or get into the tournament.
You still do that in travel baseball, yeah?
No, that's what Bart's saying, that because travel baseball has that, it's worse off than travel soccer. No, I don't think it's even comparable right now.
If I'm not mistaken, with perfect game with baseball, I think you also have to pay like like on top of actually going to the game.
neither
I
are
think
good.
you pay like a participant, basically like an attendance fee.
It's just getting the money in a different way. I mean, you pay so much for the uniforms, the registration fees, the coaching fees, the field fees from soccer. They're getting their money. They're just maybe getting it in a different, bucket. It's all the same. Kevin said, soccer.com has a monopoly. They've built a great business. I mean, look, soccer.com, I was buying from the Eurosport catalog when I was a kid all the time. They've built a great business, and others went away. TSI had stores here in Atlanta, and they were great, and they didn't last very long. There are stores like that. This is like what I would recommend. And look, we did it at Soccer in the Streets, mainly because we didn't have the money these other clubs did. I'd love to put all my teams at whatever grassroots club I had in Adidas. I'd love to do that. Probably can't afford it. I'll go to Choppies. I'll go to Crown Sports over in Decatur. I'll go there. I'll do a no-name kit. I have no problem with that. Well, my favorite kit we did for my Estudiantes team out of East Point, it was a generic kit that was done. Our colors were blue and black. Nick's going to be mad because they were blue and black stripes. But our colors were blue and black for the organization at that time. So we did striped kits because nobody was doing striped kits. And they were generic, no-name striped kits that lasted 5 seasons. God, they lasted forever. Those things were great. Better than a lot of the cheap Adidas kits or cheap Nike kits. Not the good ones. Like the ones they would try to sell is like, oh, no, this is our affordable option. Hey, crap.
Affordable meaning it gets destroyed quicker and you have to end up buying more.
eBay, Tapatio Soccer. I wasn't sure about your Connect Monoflow. Tapatio isn't one I know. Choppies is the one I know. I follow them on Instagram. They're great. Choppies did our uniforms for the U23s when we went to nationals. Love to be in some of these different situations where it's like, okay, we can have the top of the line kit. We can have the top of the line field to train on. We can have the top of the line equipment. Last time I checked, Lionel Messi didn't come from that.
Mm-mm.
Last time I checked, Neymar didn't come from that. What's more important? I don't know. Maybe the coach doing things the right way. Maybe. Crazy. I know this is nuts. Sit down, please. This is crazy.
What you do instead of how you look?
No, shut up, John. I'm not done yet. Don't interrupt me because this is very important. It's a crazy take. You got to sit down for it. Maybe the youth coach might just make the kids actually like the game. I know. It's insane. Maybe making it fun for the kid is the most important thing. Maybe. I think that worked. For some of these guys, I didn't see the new Adidas kit on Messi when he was 12 and the ball's bouncing over his head because the field's so bad. And he still controlled it and nutmegged 5 players. I didn't see Neymar dealing with that. I didn't see Maradona dealing with that. Maybe that's the important thing. Wild. Did they get into situations where they were in organized clubs and learn tactics and all those things? Absolutely they did. But if they didn't have that experience as a kid, when they fell in love with the sport, maybe we don't know who they are. And there's a lot of kids in this country who don't get that experience because it is taken away from them when they are kids because of everything else. The biggest youth clubs, the smallest youth clubs, the ones that are connected to the state association, the ones that are not, there is nothing stopping them from making it fun for the kids and teaching them a few things along the way as well. Of course, a kid isn't going to just, wake up and be Lionel Messi. There were coaches who taught him the right way to play along with making it fun. But there are too many clubs and too many coaches who get hung up on things that are not important at the end of the day. I want kids to have a good soccer experience. So when they get older, they don't turn into one of these jaded folks who's like, oh, I hate soccer. I don't like it. We don't want that. They have fun playing it. Not all of them are going to be pros. They might buy some tickets to games down the road. They might watch it on TV. Hey, they might even sign up for Apple Plus. These are the important things. That's not stopping anybody from making their money in the game. You know, nobody needs to take jobs away from youth coaches. Nobody needs to take jobs away from youth administrators. Deliver on what you're selling. Make it fun for the kids. And if you have a great product, you're gonna survive. And if you don't, well, probably not going to make it. Because it's down to the quality that you deliver. And the most important thing in that quality has to be the kids enjoying themselves. Because that doesn't happen enough at times. There's a lot of great coaches out there who do a great job with that. So often they're at the rec levels. If I could take one more thing and wave a magic wand when it comes to the youth game, when I get to my U12 academy, which depending on how you're structured, it could be kids as young as 8 to 11. If you're younger than 8, touches on the ball, control the ball with both feet, maybe look to pass from time to time, dribble, control the ball, develop those foundational skills. 8 to 11, if I could flip the paradigm, and this would take a magic wand, to where I take my best coaches, and not all of them are the best for that age group, but I'm going to start with getting my best coaches and working with them to coach this age group. Get them to work with 8 to 11-year-olds rather than the older kids to play in the turkey trot tournament or whatever other holiday tournament you can imagine. The best youth coaches coach the older kids. I want it to be the other way around. Maybe not the youngest. I don't need them there, but in that 8 to 11 range where you're teaching passing, you're teaching combination play, the basics of tactics, just more about how like a group of 4 kids will interact. That's what I want. If I could wave the magic wand and make clubs commit more resources to the 8 to 11-year-olds than the older, boom, that's what I want. Not going to happen anytime soon because those kids also don't need to be playing in the turkey trot tournaments and driving thousands of miles away and doing it because it does nothing for their overall development. They need to be coached really well. I wish clubs would do that. That would be the most transformational thing in youth soccer from a development perspective of players. I wish that would happen. We'll see. I did not intend for this topic to go as long as this, but I like it. It's good. Jared, anything else you want to get into in this before we jump around?
Honestly, like loop it back to what we talked about Monday night. When I got really sideways and angry about the stuff that was posted. What?
That's my gimmick, getting sideways and angry.
Well, about the about former athlete posting what his son's soccer conditioning was
for a 9-year-old.
For a 9-year-old, you gonna make a kid hate the sport at 9 years old because you run him into the ground? You gonna make him hate running into the ground? Because I can tell you right now, I still hate running. Part of that is bad knees. Part of that though is running was always a punishment. It was never fun. Even at a certain point as a kid, you run everywhere because you're a kid and you're outside and you're on bikes running around in the summertime. You start playing sports and coaches start using running as a punishment. That gets in your head. I remember one day. We were doing an indoor practice in high school. And tell you how chaotic and ill-advised this was. We did a baseball practice in the gym because it was raining outside. You ever tried to pick short hops off of a hardwood floor?
Yes.
It's like catching a grenade.
Mm-hmm.
But I had friends of ours who were on track team, and they were also practicing inside. And I remember talking to them in between practices, like, the hell, y'all just run for fun? Because it was in my brain at that point. I hated running because I had coaches use it as punishment all the time. Quit making kids hate stuff just because you want to be a big bad about everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because I went through this on Twitter the other day with somebody. There's times where you would run a couple. You screwed up and you run a lap. That's one thing. Having someone do damn near military conditioning. Come the hell on, man. Just miss me with all of that crap, especially with younger kids. I get you have to be. You want them to. I get you need like at a certain age you need kids to be able to be in shape to do the things that you need them to do.
For
But
sure. But you can do that with the ball.
You
Like
can do
that's the
that with the
thing is
ball.
you do that with the ball because that's the important element.
You know what we used to do for conditioning, honestly, is we would go in the outfield, but in the preseason before the coaches were allowed to be there, we played touch football and play basically foul pole to foul pole. Yeah. Amazing how much you end up running, and you're not just running for the sake of it. But to your point, yeah, and my wife is the same way. We discussed this that she always hated conditioning, but she always said if you put a ball at her feet and let her just dribble around the outside of the field, she'd run forever. Just give her something to do.
Yeah, you can do, and this was something that, look, this is where Jose Mourinho gets his credit, and he absolutely 100% deserves it because he brought more training that involved the ball. Because last time I checked, in a soccer match, there's always a ball involved. Maybe when you're worrying about conditioning, you're using a ball to do it. It's easy to do. It's not difficult. It's just not. Running laps around the field every day and train. Look, preseason for a competitive team where you're building up fitness, different conversation entirely. Different situation. You can do things with that. But a normal training session, and for kids, normal training sessions,
yeah, you start getting into your higher teenage years. Yeah, that's a different conversation.
And a preseason mode too, not in a regular season. Yeah, because you can maintain the fitness with the ball in the season. Preseason, where you're building a baseline of fitness, sure, different conversation. Don't get it twisted.
But even like 9 and 10-year-olds don't need to be doing that.
No, I mean, no. In some of your early sessions, sure, you can do something like that, and you can explain it. You can say, "Look, this is what the pros do. We're gonna do this fun fitness activity to start the day as a warm up, and then boom with the ball every time." You can have some variety with it, make it fun. But
9-year-old don't need to run a beep test.
No, they don't need to run a beep test. You can do the jog around the field where somebody sprints from the back kind of thing, because then that can be fun, and they can be silly with that. That stuff's fun. You can do that.
It can be. You just can't overdo it.
You have to make it fun. No, you don't overdo it. No, don't get me wrong. Don't. No, please don't. I'm not saying do that all the time. I'm not saying do that at some crazy military level. It's kids. Make it fun. Make it in a small space. Like, make it very small. Have some silly fun with it, because then they'll have fun to start the day. Like, we did rondos. I mean, with my older kids, we did rondos. It's keep away. It's the basis of a lot of Pep's, training, and they do it from a training perspective, but they also do it from a warm up perspective. And you do it consistently. And one, you get better with your touch. You get better with the ball under pressure. And two, you create variations that are fun. You make people, like, if the two defenders got split 3 times in a drill and they didn't win the ball, so they got out of it. If it was the same group who got split 3 times, they had to do 3 push-ups, and everybody's laughing and having fun with it. Silly stuff like that, because then it puts a little pressure on, but you're working with the ball. And yeah, you get into a 4v2, a 5v2, and you do that for a good 15, 20 minutes. You don't need to be running a lap. If you're really doing it, and not just keep away is not just standing in one spot and kicking the ball. It's moving. You create those things and you do it. It can be fun. You do with kids, look, and it's not just about scrimmage. I want to make that clear too. It's not just about like roll the ball out and let them scrimmage all the time, every time. But you create little games in the sessions to make it fun. And yeah, you have a lot of scrimmage. Don't get me wrong. You have a lot of it, but it's not purely just, then there's no point in it. 9-year-olds are starting some of the foundational stuff. 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds, fun. Number one thing. But learn to control the ball. Learn to use both feet. 9-year-olds, yeah, you gotta know when to pass a little bit. You gotta know how to pass. Use the outside of the foot in passing, those kinds of things. You can do that, and you can still make it fun. It ramps up in more things you have to do to develop a player while still keeping it fun. There's a lot of balance there. It's not easy, and coaches need to be educated, and that costs money too. And you have to be, if you're a good club, you have to be willing to commit resources to coaching education. So many things. Again, now what I hope this preachy rant or whatever it is gets across is there's no easy way to fix all of it. There are so many coaches and so many clubs and so many groups that you don't even know about that are out there that you're never in this country going to get a top down. This is how you coach 10-year-olds. This is how you coach 11-year-olds. You're never going to get the National Federation to be able to do that. You're never going to get state federations to be able to do that across the board. Smaller countries, other places, yeah, you can do those sorts of things. Here, it's not going to happen. But there are some things that coaches in any of these places and have whatever their ideas are have to keep in mind. And more importantly, to do that, the federation, the pro clubs, whoever can bridge the gap between all of it, have to work at it. Absolutely have to work at it. Can't just give it up. Can't just say, nothing we can do. Oh, whatever. No, there's got to be work done. Jarrett, I think you have work to do, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to tap out of this one.
All right, that's fine. We'll see you tomorrow in some form or fashion.
Probably. Can't get away that easy.
Yeah, tomorrow's a little complicated because we're traveling a little bit earlier than normal, so it won't be a show till 11. I know that much. I think we will be on till 10 is the plan. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. But we'll talk to you then, Jared.
All right. See you.
Bye. Before we jump into a couple other things, Soccer for Good OG mentions Tom Byer, who I love the work that Tom Byer does. He's actually done a good bit of work with the Houston Dynamo in the last few years. Tom is outstanding with his ideas for the youngest of kids and really for parent coaches. If you get a chance to read up on Tom Byer, great work in Japan, great work in Australia. He was hired in China to get kids playing and learning technical skills, but he made it fun. And it was really for the youngest of the young. He should have more influence, and I'd love to see him have more influence. Is he going to affect the 12-year-olds? Probably not as much. But the youngest kids, absolutely. Matt Wagner, we'll get into that here in just a minute, so you haven't missed anything. Hold tight. More than anything, whatever you guys can do out there, if you're involved, if you have kids who are playing, hold coaches accountable that it's fun for your kids. If it's not fun for your kids, talk to your coach about it. If they don't get it, and I'm talking youngest kids. I'm not talking about the 16-year-olds who, are fighting for either playing time or getting noticed. That's a different conversation. You want it to be fun for them too, but there's different priorities there. Kids 8 and under, if they're not having fun, you're in the wrong spot. Make sure it's fun for the kids. Give coaches the latitude to coach. That was mentioned in the chat, and it is an issue that you see in a lot of places. Parents doing way too much on the sidelines during games, practices, way too extra. Don't do that. Let the coaches coach. If you see something that you don't like, talk to them about it separately. If their kids aren't having fun, talk to the coach about it. If it's not creating an environment you want because of that, go somewhere else. You have options. And don't be afraid to look outside the box for those options. It's not always the most expensive club that, your 5 neighbors' kids are playing at that works for your kid. It might be the local Latino league down the street. Might be an opportunity for kids to be able to interact with people that they might not have known otherwise. Find what fits for your kid. Every kid's different. As a kid, I wouldn't have thrived in a giant club with a ton of pressure. No way. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have had fun, and I would have gotten out of it. I was lucky that I was with a coach, and I started playing when I was 9. It was a different time. You didn't have kids playing when they were 4 or 5 when I was a kid. I didn't even know what soccer was at that age. I was lucky to have a coach and a club, I guess. It was the YMCA that did things the right way, in my opinion. And we enjoyed what we were doing. That was the number one thing. And we were taught well. But we enjoyed it. That was key. That's why I'm still doing this stuff. So, find that place for your kid and find what works for your kid. It might not be the coach that other kids like. Might be somebody else. Be willing to find that and let them coach. And if you're not in the right situation, move on. Go somewhere else. But figure those things out. As the kids get older, things change and it turns different. And there's different conversations as they get older and they're playing in different places. If they're trying to get noticed by scouts or colleges or whatever, then everything's a different conversation. But for the youngest kids, it's got to be fun. It's got to come back to fun. And it's just got to continue to grow. And we will try to get it there as best we can. And sometimes we'll go on these little preachy rants from time to time, just as a reminder of where things are, maybe where we've come from and where we can go, because there's still work to do. But there's a lot of people out there working on it. And if you see something in your neighborhood or you pick up an estadio or you hear about, wow, there's a bunch of games going on a Sunday and there's thousands of people at Silverbacks Park. What's going on for that? Might be a big game that, hey, you want to go have a cerveza and some tacos that will blow your mind and watch good local soccer? You might be surprised. You might really be surprised. Same in the NPSL on a Saturday night all over the metro. Same in the UPSL, Georgia, all over different places all over the state. There's lots of good soccer happening from the youth level all the way through to the grassroots level. And if you get a chance to support it, do it. And that'll help connect the dots a little bit more. And we'll keep working on it. We'll get our magic markers out and our Sharpies and our maps, and we'll do our best. But until then, we'll talk about some other things in the soccer world. Niko Moreno will join us here in about 25 minutes. We'll talk some Open Cup. We'll talk more MLS. Get some of your questions in soccer in general here in this next segment. But before we do, John, you've got to tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize.
I can certainly do that. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch right there. There it is. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize service, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminize bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that helps out realtors and property managers just as much to make it easy to work together in a situation like this. Eliminize service, kind of the environment. We like that these days, a very green way of going about things to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue. Different than your favorite masking agent that you have under the sink, because when you reach under the sink, you take the masking agent out, you spray it in the air. That's why they call it a masking agent. You're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule with their proven scientific formula like Eliminize service does. Pricing, very, very easy. Using either cubic feet or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions about Eliminize whatsoever, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. It's eliminize.com, but do us a favor. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from to get your question answered. So, your full homework assignment, eliminize.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go as we go through all of our thoughts here on a Thursday. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
John, you don't want all of my thoughts.
You got plenty more. I know you do.
You don't want all of them is what I'm saying.
Why not?
I'd like to not get in trouble today.
Okay, well then how about just divulging the thoughts that will not get you in trouble today?
Well, I make no guarantees. I'm sure it'll get me in trouble with somebody. But let's jump around the news front and then get your questions together. We'll grab those in about 15 minutes, about 10 minutes. Before Niko joins us, we'll grab a few questions. And I know Matt Wagner's got the one about the international slots. U.S. U20s in the CONCACAF Championship. 3-0 win last night. Quinn Sullivan of Philadelphia with the hat trick. Up next, Nicaragua in the round of 16. We get into the knockouts now. Nicaragua went through a qualifying tournament in November to get to this. They get to the knockout round. Canada finished third in the group. They advance along with the U.S. and Cuba. This is to get to the 2023 U20 World Cup, but more importantly, to get to the 24 Olympics. Round of 16 is next. The quarterfinal winners go to the World Cup in 23 at the U20 level. The semifinal winners go to the 24 Olympics. So that's what you're playing for. By finishing top two in the group, U.S. avoids Mexico earlier than the finals. They don't have to go through Mexico to get to either the U20 World Cup or the Olympics. By winning the group, the U.S. avoids the possibility of facing Honduras, the host of the tournament, before the semifinals. Honduras knocked the U.S. out of the last two Olympics in the semifinals. So it's all there for them. Good start. They should get through Nicaragua, and then you have a game to get to the U20 World Cup, and then you have a game to get to the 24 Olympics. So keep an eye on the U20s. But Saturday, 8:30 Eastern time. You'll be watching and or listening to Atlanta United in Toronto, but have this on the CONCACAF app or VIX or YouTube, and you can keep up with what's going on with the U20s. We'll keep you up to date on that on Monday. Russian appeals against bans from international football are set to be heard at the Court of Arbitration for Sport in July. See how that goes. It's like a ton of different competitions, more than 15 European competitions that Russian teams have been removed from, and you're not going to be able to just walk back into all of them. So I don't know what this looks like and what CAS is going to do. But you've got, for example, Zenit would have went straight to the group stage in the Champions League. They're not right now. So does that change? I don't know. I don't know if we have any kind of precedent on this for CAS, but the only thing I guess that comes up here, but it's an individual as opposed to a team situation. At the Beijing Olympics, Jeffrey Benz, who is an American lawyer, he was part of a CAS panel that cleared Russian figure skater Valieva to compete despite an ongoing investigation of a doping case. It doesn't really apply to this. So, I mean, just he's involved in this one. He's one of the judges in the hearing here. So no clue where this goes, but it's coming up next month. CONCACAF and CBS coverage announced for the W Championship in July in Mexico. CBS is going to put the majority of the games on Paramount Plus. They have the rights to CONCACAF competitions. 12 games exclusive to Paramount Plus, including the final and third place playoff. Select games during the tournament will air on CBS Sports Network. The two opening games between the U.S. and Haiti, followed by Mexico and Jamaica. The semifinals will be on CBS Sports Network, and they'll have people on site, I believe, for the semifinals and the final. We've never really had much coverage of this tournament in its various forms over the years, so it is a step in the right direction. Would love more. We all want everything. We want everything we can possibly have, but this is more resources ever committed to this tournament in any of its various forms than I've ever heard of. So great job by CBS and Paramount Plus. Some of the rumor and innuendo flying around this morning. Christian Eriksen, reportedly Manchester United are in pole position to get him. Manchester United are having problems selling Anthony Martial. The transfer fee is not as big of a deal. It's the salary that's the big deal. So people don't want to pay much of a transfer fee. So they're having problems getting that. Nottingham Forest have found a breakthrough in getting Dean Henderson on loan. Cristiano Ronaldo is reportedly concerned about a lack of transfer activity and could leave the club before the end of the window. I'm tired of hearing about Ronaldo, Botman, and Pogba.
Yes.
Can we just ban those at this point? Arsenal, they are not going to go after Dominic Calvert-Lewin, according to the Daily Star. They're having some second thoughts. Michael Edwards, who was an architect of Liverpool's recent successes in the transfer market, he could be the new sporting director at Chelsea. That would be big. He's linked with, I believe, RB Leipzig at one point. Alan St. Maximin, Chelsea and Spurs have shown some interest in him, but £40 million valuation by Newcastle, a little too high. But the player is now interested because of the interest. That gets a little tricky if you're Newcastle. Raheem Sterling, he's only going to leave City if he gets regular first-team football and he's in the Champions League and he's at a club competing for the biggest domestic trophies. Okay. I mean, that's not a huge number of clubs, but that's the level he's at, and we'll see if he gets that. Arsenal have reportedly put an offer in front of Gabriel Jesus to come to the Emirates. We'll see. Manchester City advanced talks to get Marc Cucurella from Brighton. Intrigued. I like him. He's a player that has jumped out to me. I really like him. One that affects the U.S. men's national team, Stefan Ortega, leaving Arminia Bielefeld on a free transfer, apparently headed to Manchester City. 29 years old. Kicker is reporting this. He would be their new number 2. Been linked with a number of clubs after last season. 6 clean sheets for Arminia Bielefeld. It was not exactly great defensively. Developed at Arminia Bielefeld. Fabrizio Romano followed up and said that City are really interested in signing him. There's a verbal agreement in place to sign him as a free agent. The deal depends on Zach Steffen to find a good solution on the market, but Ortega will wait to go to City for that to happen. So the deal of Ortega going to City is dependent on Steffen leaving. Now, maybe leaving on a loan, maybe leaving on a permanent. So it affects Steffen, but it might affect him in a good way, to be honest, if he goes somewhere that he's going to play and not just sit and be the number 2 at City. So keep an eye on that. Again, like we talked about with goalkeepers and who should start, things are going to change between now and the World Cup. And Zach Steffen might end up in a better place to start in the World Cup than he would have been, because I don't know what's going to happen for Turner. We'll just have to wait and see. Ajax, they are trying to get Steven Bergwijn from Tottenham. Tottenham wants at least £25 million. See if they can pull that off. Christian Pulisic's name is floating around as leaving Chelsea. We've known this for a while. Everton keeps coming up. Frank Lampard is there. Frank Lampard brought Pulisic in and played Pulisic a good bit at Chelsea. Could go to Everton. Could be part of a Richarlison swap. I'm always skeptical when we start talking about player swaps because they almost never happen. But this one for Pulisic, just in general, going to Everton, that part makes sense. That part makes a lot of sense. Again, another U.S. men's national team player needs playing time. Enzo Fernandez, River Plate. We've talked about him quite a bit. Benfica have confirmed the deal officially, 18 million euro. They didn't pay the full release clause. It came in just under it. River keeps 25% of the player's pass, which could be really lucrative down the line. And he will stay. River got this part of the deal done. This is probably why they accepted a little bit less money. He will stay for the Copa Libertadores knockout stages. So he will join Benfica in January. Great move for River, taking $2 million less from what was reportedly the release clause, but getting to keep 25% and getting to keep the player for the rest of the calendar year and the Libertadores knockout rounds and the league campaign. So I think everybody wins in this. And he's going to a club that has had players come through and kick up another level and then be sold for lots of money. So I think this is a good deal for everybody involved. Keep an eye on it. Premier League interest in Mikkel Damsgaard of Denmark, 21 years old. He's at Sampdoria, likely to stay there until after the World Cup. He's one of those guys that if he goes and has the World Cup that Denmark and Damsgaard are expecting, he could end up being a huge January transfer. He to me, feels like he could be in that Hamas category of having a great tournament and then being sold for a crazy number that's going to be hard for him to play at that level. Find out. Or at least match the output matching the amount of money paid. But he's a great player. I really like him as a player. I don't know. He feels like if he has a big tournament, he's going to go for crazy money and crazy expectation. Edson Alvarez, Mexican center back who actually played a good bit of defensive midfield for Ajax this past season. Strong interest in him from RB Leipzig. English clubs also interested, according to Dutch reports, and more Dutch reports have him as a potential target for Manchester United. Again, Erik ten Hag coached him at Ajax. Makes a lot of sense. Played in the holding midfield, played well this past season. That could be an option for him. Is a regular at Ajax, 40 appearances, scored 5 goals, had 1 assist, 24 clean sheets. Again, it's the Eredivisie where there's a huge gap in quality between teams. But could the Mexican international make the jump to Manchester United? Being reported by The Telegraph and others. Keep an eye on that one. Keep an eye on Paulo Dybala as well. This has gotten a little bit weird. Everybody thought he was going to go to Inter. He's not going to go to Inter right now. They've brought Lukaku back. Talk about him going to Milan. But it's weird how we've gotten here. And Corriere della Sera is reporting that a representative of the Elliott Group, remember, Milan is in the process of a takeover, won't go official until, I think, September. Corriere della Sera is reporting that a representative of Elliott, who are the current owners, soon to be former owners, has sounded out Dybala's availability. So now people are like, well, wait a minute. What about the new owners? And what about Paolo Maldini? Maldini's out of contract with Milan as a sporting director at the end of the month. That's 7 days. Okay. Hasn't gotten done yet. Maldini apparently not holding transfer talks, as reports that Elliott representatives are the ones handling this. Dybala's available on a free. I mean, he's got some injury history for sure, but he's a great player to get on a free. Maldini, before the takeover happened, said that he expected more guarantees of decision-making powers, higher transfer budget. Not sure if that's going to be met. The Sven Botman deal is an example of this. Maldini believes that he's a priority. The owners and Ivan Gazidis, the CEO, prefer to focus on attacking players. The new owner, Jerry Cardinale, and Redbird Capital Partners, they're kind of on the fringes of all of this right now. The closing doesn't happen until September. So all kinds of weird things. Now, there's also reports in Italy, and this is even weirder, that Redbird Capital Partners needed a loan from Elliott, who are the current owners, to complete the takeover. And Gazzetta reported this week that Cardinale is currently in New York trying to raise fresh funds from investors. What?
That's not a good sign.
It doesn't sound like it. I mean, look, I get the loan of who you're buying from because then they keep an involvement. And there was always talk that Elliott would keep a minority stake. Like, I get that part, even though it's not always the best look. I get it. Looking for more investors? Okay, that's weird. And they've got to get Maldini online with all this. They've got to get him locked in for the future. I don't get it. And there's not a lot of information about this, but I did want to share it because it's very stupid. Sheffield United have confirmed that Rhian Brewster and Ole McBurney have been charged by the Nottinghamshire police following incidents that took place at the final whistle of last month's championship playoff semifinal. The club say the pair, as Sheffield United saying this, the pair both strenuously deny the charges, having attended voluntary interviews with police. Now, if you remember, Billy Sharp was headbutted horrendously in this situation where the home fans of Nottingham Forest ran onto the field at the end of the match. Paul Heckingbottom, the manager of Sheffield United, wrote to a number of governing bodies to condemn the increase in pitch invasions. The police have charged 2 Sheffield United players in this. Now, they've done other things too. It's not that they're blaming it all on the players, but blaming anything on the players. The statement from the club said both players voluntarily engaged in interviews with the Nottinghamshire police in the aftermath of the fixture, which saw their teammate Billy Sharp, the victim of assault in the chaos which followed the final whistle. They strenuously deny the charges. Look, fans ran into these 2 players' place of work. One of their teammates was viciously assaulted. I've heard nothing about what these 2 players possibly did. I've not seen any video of it. You would think that with all the video everywhere of these things, that there would be video of what these 2 did if it's so bad. I'm blown away by the stupidity of this. Absolutely blown away by the Nottinghamshire police. Should be embarrassed for charging players whose place of work was invaded and one of their teammates was viciously assaulted. And you're going to charge 2 players? That charge of these 2 players, if you feel like you have to do that, because I'm sure you feel like you have to for whatever stupid reason, should be backed up by charges of I don't know, maybe thousands of people for trespassing. I don't know, the person who viciously assaulted Billy Sharp. What's next with that? I think that person was identified. Sadly, there's been too many morons who have ran on the pitch and done stupid things to keep up with them all. But the fact that they have charged 2 players in this is shocking. And sadly, it's not. Idiots. The Nottinghamshire police. Love to hear more about this because there's got to be something to it, and there's nothing there. Not yet, anyway. I haven't seen any video about these two. I don't remember any of that. I don't remember anything from it at that point. But their place of work was invaded, and you're going to charge them? Okay. Makes tons of sense. Last one, and this is all really complicated. I hate even getting into it, but I do have a Maradona jersey behind me, and we talked about what yesterday was on that day. And 86, it was the Argentina-England game where Maradona, depending on how you feel about it, became infamous, famous, both at the same time. Just one of the wildest games in soccer history. Well, reports came out yesterday that 8 people who took care of Maradona at the end of his life have been charged with homicide. Now, the laws are a little bit different. I don't know what it would be exactly here. Somewhere in the realm of negligence, I would assume, John. Like I'm sure there is a negligent homicide kind of.
That sounds where it would be the closest. It would be negligent homicide. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you understand. And there's so much. I mean, it's a 236-page document that Reuters has seen. The case questioned the behaviors, active or by omission, of each of the accused, which led to and contributed to the realization of the harmful result. And stuff's been bubbling up for a while. It's super complicated because of kind of what condition Maradona was in the last few months of his life. And this was November of 20. He passed away on November 25th. He had surgery before that and was recovering. And a lot of this seems to be tied to the surgery and the recovery process that people that were his minders, essentially, if you want to use that term, lawyer, doctors, really did not do their jobs, did not provide the right care, and also kind of kept him secluded from family, which look, historically, again, if you know his life, it was a mess on good days. And he was back and forth in being estranged with his family and not, but he was at this point. And one of the allegations is that was not by his choice or their choice. And it was by the people that were around Maradona. So this is going to be a horrible, ugly soap opera. And you hate to see something like this. You absolutely hate to see it. But there's a lot of evidence that he should not have been in the place and condition and treatment he was getting at that time when he passed away. So 8 people have been charged with homicide in Argentina connected to this. We'll keep you posted on it, but it's going to be ugly for a while because this is going to be one of the court cases of all time in Argentina with what Maradona means in that country. I talked too long. I said 10 minutes of questions. We've got about 5 and maybe a little bit of change. So what you got, John?
A couple of things, and literally it's just odds and ends. Going back to the discussion in the first hour, one of the comments that I wanted to pull was from Mazzano, and Mazzano says it needs to be said that a lot of the times the parents put unrealistic expectations on the youth coaches that drives them into the, quote, sadistic evil coach when they just wanted to let them have fun.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with youth soccer, I mean, it's hard. Like, I've coached a little bit, more older kids. I coached one season of the youngest kids. I didn't really coach the middle groups. The youngest kids, it has to be fun. If it's not fun, you're wasting your time. You shouldn't be doing it. The middle group, I think, is the hardest. The like 8 to 12. I coached U14. I enjoyed coaching like U19 / high school, open age, whatever. I enjoyed that the most. It kind of suited just where I could be as a coach and what I could do. It fit me. I think the middle group is the hardest because that's where the transition is between purely just fun, more structured kinds of trainings. I think it's probably the hardest age group to teach as well because of that, because you're not just a little kid. You're not a young adult. You're becoming that. And it's so important from a soccer perspective. It's so important from a foundational element. And you've got to find that balance. There's a lot of good coaches out there. There's a lot of bad coaches out there. I think we focus a lot on the bad coaches. I hope we can find ways to do more to focus on the good coaches and give them their props because they deserve it. You know, the stories are always the bad side. I hate that, but it does need to be talked about to point out what not to do sometimes. So it's this balancing act of all of it. It's hard. You know, it's just like referees. When we talk about referees, like, it's hard. I get it. Doesn't mean you can't try to do a better job, though. And hopefully we continue to see more improvements on the coaching side for sure.
Couple of notes on the player movement that you were discussing in Gossip Rumor and Innuendo. Burned with a yin and yang. Says Ortega's a fantastic fit for City, great with his feet, but Edson Alvarez is not a good fit for Leipzig, doesn't cover enough ground for that system.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up going to England. Just it makes sense to go to Manchester United with the relationship. I agree. I don't think he fits Leipzig. I want to see where Leipzig goes more thoroughly now that you've got a full preseason to prepare. You know, I mean, we saw the situation with Marsh trying to take it back to the future a little bit with his more old school style of play under the Leipzig umbrella. I want to see what now you can do from scratch. Is it different? Would he fit better then? Who knows? I think most likely he's going to end up at Manchester United. The tea leaves seem to be going in that direction.
And in the discussion about Pulisic and Richarlison and Chelsea and Everton, the Airborne DJ mentions that there would have to be cash involved to Everton as well if this deal was to go down.
I don't think anything happens with any of that, like player swaps. I just mentioned player swap in general. Like, yeah, you're well, I don't know. It's actually an interesting one if you're going to vary Richarlison versus Pulisic and who should get what and where it should go. But I don't think it happens that way. I really, really don't. It just, we hear about it so much with these things, and I'm not buying it. You shared it in I mean, you could have said this when we were talking about it, the situation with Brewster and McBurney. I still don't have a problem with it. There's video of McBurney stamping on a Forest fan who was on the pitch where he shouldn't have been.
Well, and we mentioned it, I think, at the time about the McBurney conversation.
You should have said that because I don't remember it. We've had too many of these situations that I can't keep all of them straight. Please, say what happened then.
When we initially, I think it was before the video came public.
May 18th is when the video was public.
Yeah, so like 5 weeks ago. When we initially talked about Billy Sharp and all of that, there was a conversation where a fan, I think, saw the video and it looked like McBurney was trying to avoid, the fan mentions that McBurney is trying to avoid the fan, and McBurney responds in the Twitter timeline 100. He gives the 100 emoji and gives that as his response. And so that was, we talked about that at the time. I vaguely remember us discussing McBurney and the 100. And then I was just doing the search and found that out of context, I think it's 16 seconds or something where McBurney is in this mass of fans, and you see that moment that folks are focused on. And I'm fairly certain that that's what the police were looking at as well as their justification for the charge. Like I said, that's conjecture on my part, but that's the assumption that I'm leaning toward.
Well, I'm fairly certain that they are clowns, because in this 16-second or so interview, a fan is on the field and engaged in some form of back and forth physically with players from Sheffield United. Why is the fan there, by the way?
Yeah.
And now we want to complain because the fan ran onto the field, got into some kind of an altercation with professional athletes, and it didn't go well for the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Darn. Sorry. Don't go on the field. Don't go on the field. And you want to charge these players? No. I don't care. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. Good they looked into whatever. Like that's absurd. Did the fan get anything for being there and getting into a physical altercation in the first place? Because I don't think these players grabbed the fan out of the stands, dragged him down to the field, and shoved him around, and then possibly, and it's not exactly 100% clear, possibly stomped on them. He didn't continually stomp on him.
No.
You know, I mean, I don't care.
Just that one.
But I don't care. Like, that's the thing. Is like, okay, why is the fan there? He's not supposed to be there.
Nope.
So, I mean, I don't really care about the particulars of it. Don't come on the field. Don't get into physical altercations with players. It's not going to end well for you, buddy. And you're going to charge the players? That's horrendous.
I know. The only fan that has been mentioned that I can recall out of this incident was the one that they tracked down who headbutted and plowed Billy Sharp. That's the only.
And what happened to that fan?
He got arrested and wasn't he charged? I think we're waiting for sentencing on that, I think.
I don't know. I don't. Again, there's been 5 other incidents since. So, I mean, I can't keep up with it. I believe he was arrested and or charged, but I don't remember hearing anything further. That's just, I mean, I'm sorry. I got nothing on that. I'm just really frustrated with it.
Doing quick research, it looks like Robert Biggs, idiot, pled guilty to assault occasioning actual bodily harm, jailed for 24 weeks, ordered to pay 500 pounds compensation to Sharp, 85 pounds in costs, and 128 in a victim surcharge. So Robert Biggs, idiot, is in jail right now for headbutting Billy Sharp.
For 24 weeks?
Yeah.
6 months.
Occasioning actual bodily harm. Assault occasioning actual bodily harm, jailed for 24 weeks, and 585 and 128, a little over 700 pounds, so like $1,000 in fines and or compensation for plowing Billy Sharp the way that he did.
6 months for an action that very easily could have ended Billy Sharp's career. And on the same day, in the same incident, you charge 2 players whose workplace was invaded. I'll let you guys draw your conclusions of that. Real quickly, before we bring Niko Moreno on, Matt asked about the international slots Atlanta United acquired yesterday. I did not have my updated count on where they were on slots. I'm assuming these were needed not just for possible future moves, but for the 2 players that they added who would need international slots, Gudinho and Purata. So you've got 2 now. You're good for the rest of the year. My old source of the international slots is outdated now. I'm very disappointed. The Wikipedia page was amazing for keeping up with it until 2021. And now I've got to go do math. And it's a little complicated because you had the green cards that came in after the season started, but in the past that was supposed to not help you during the current season, but it might actually help now. Yeah, Matt, again, like I've seen people post stuff too. I don't trust it, what people are posting, just because people are posting. I don't know exactly. I will try to get an updated answer on that if I can. I'll ask and see what I can find out, and I'll try to do my own research and connect the dots. So we'll figure it out. Do I see any more moves? I do think it's possible, Matt. I don't know for sure. I don't know if it is a must. I don't think it is. But if the right deal is there, yes, I think you take it. Just don't know how much room you have. I didn't know if they have the room to add these 2 guys. They have. Do they have any more room? Man, that's going to be tricky. I do think the odds, Jason Nix, I do think the odds are very high that Cisneros, stays after the original loan. I think the loan's extended for the rest of the year. It would be my guess. I don't think he leaves at the end of this month. I think he stays the rest of the season, and then we'll have to take stock and see what happens. That's my guess. Complicated stuff. And one more, just to lead us into our conversation with Niko, and I cannot wait for Niko's reaction to this. I cannot wait. I'm going to hit it again because it's good.
Oh, brother.
News. Minnesota United. They have signed a new deal with head coach Adrian Heath, which keeps him with Minnesota through the 2024 season. On that note, let's hear from our good friend, Niko Moreno. Niko, Minnesota timed this news for you. What is your reaction to Adrian Heath being locked up through 24 with Minnesota?
Man, I mean, the opposite of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know how more broken it can be, and you have to go look elsewhere. The fact that you're giving this man another vote of confidence just leads me to believe what I believe for a very long time, that Adrian must have some dirt on somebody in Minnesota, because, man, I don't know how else do you keep that job for as long as you've had, with little success to none, and now they're just going to extend you. It's beyond me. It's beyond words. I guess he talks about how poorly that team is ran, and I'm probably being extremely disrespectful here, but I just got to say it. The results haven't been there. The relationships with certain players haven't been there. They have missed with designated players, with domestic players. It just, man, I have no words for what I just heard.
I'm trying to find something here to try to find something resembling justification, and I can't. They have, in his tenure, made the playoffs 3 of 5 years. Okay. They made a semifinal where they lost to Seattle, blew the game, had a 2-0 lead, last 15 minutes, blew it. That was the COVID year where they finished 4th in the conference and won playoff games. It's the only time they've won playoff games. The other 2 appearances in the playoffs, they lost in the first game. Their best season was 20, where they played 21 games and had 1.62 points per game. They had 1.56 the year before. They finished 4th in the conference then. 21, they finished 5th, but it fell to 1.44. The high hasn't been very high with him in Minnesota. The low has been really low the first 2 years. If you want to chalk that up to not investing or whatever, fine. I think that's a little bit of a lame excuse, but whatever. But since 20, it's sliding the other direction. And you've re-upped? I don't get it.
Guys, I was coming in here extremely happy and just excited about what's going on with the league.
Drop a downer
about
on
Cucho Hernandez coming in and all this talent, and I'm here talking about Adrian. But man, you're right. I mean, you got to talk about it. You got to. I mean, the news come out. That's just the way it is. I guess if you want to play to your limitations, you keep it. I mean, if I am a general manager, I don't want to just be around the playoffs. I want somebody to give me a chance to really get there. And Adrian has shown you, regardless of roster, regardless of situation, regardless of how good or bad you go into the playoffs, that he can't really do it. We've talked about the bad atmosphere that there has been throughout the year, and him throwing players under the bus, and players talking about bad management and substitutions, and players that should be on the bench and aren't. I mean, how much worse can it get, man? It's just a bad situation. I understand that maybe that floor is high, but that ceiling is extremely low. So if you want me to take my pick at it, I'm a gamble with the guy that could give me a title and get me to that cup that I need, that title. That's what I need. I don't need somebody to make me mediocre or semi-good. I need somebody that's going to put my team on the map, and they aren't. So, man, It's just hard to believe.
They're 2 points out of a playoff spot right now. They're in 11th in the West out of 14. And this move is announced on the back of a 3-game losing streak in all competitions and 1 win out of 6 in all competitions. And one of those losses was to a 3rd division club in the U.S. Open Cup at home after having the lead.
And with the players that you have and the talent that you've brought and the mistakes you continue to make, and you bring in Amarilla and then you let him go and then you bring him back and he's still not good. And I mean, my goodness, I feel for those Minnesota fans because I know they're fantastic. And, you know, Ozzy, before he went to Atlanta, told me how great those fans were and how they're, you know, receiving him was amazing. But wow, yeah, that's tough.
I'm blown away. We could try to make sense of it for an hour and we won't. So let's move on. Cucho Hernandez, tell me about him. And do you think he's the fit that Columbus needs?
He's the fit that any team needs. I mean, he is going to be just as productive, in my opinion, as Josef Martinez. I mean, this guy is coming in his prime. He's a player that I followed for a very long time that various MLS teams have wanted in their roster since 2018. That's when I first brought out an article that Chris Henderson had his eye on him for a very long time. And now he's here. He's here in his prime. He's a player that is a game changer. He is clinical in front of goal. He's fast. He's a smart player. He has a high motor. Cucho Hernandez is a guy that should have been in the Colombia national team when Colombia couldn't score to save their lives. He's someone that many around, you know, both media and the fan base wanted to see in the Colombia national team. I mean, this guy is a stud, without a doubt. I had a hard time initially thinking that he was coming in, especially because of how well he was doing in that last month in the Premier League and what potential you saw. I mean, it was hard for me to believe that a mid-range table team in La Liga or, you know, anywhere else was not going to take a chance on him again, because he was a Huesca for a while and he shined. He didn't have consistency, but he had moments on top of or versus top competition, Barcelona and other teams where you saw, man, this guy is amazing.
But he never really, probably the biggest thing for him to try to achieve, and the consistency. I think maybe one other thing is at Watford, he played out on the wing a lot. He played out on the right side a lot. Do you see him as a 9, or do you see maybe Caleb Porter, who's played a 3-5-2 a little bit here lately too? Do you see him playing as part of a 2 and a 3-5-2? Do you see him playing as a wide player in a 4-3-3 and coming inside with Barry as the 9, or do you see him purely as a 9?
I think he could do both. Okay. I believe that he would be at his best ability to not just put goals on the scoreboard, but also allow you to get a little bit of build-up play. If you put him in a 2-striker system, I think he would benefit out of that, especially when you have another guy that can push a little bit of the markers and maybe take a little bit of that attention off of him, and he could get behind the defenders a lot easier. So I think he would be under his best formation with another striker. I don't like him out wide. He can definitely do it, has the wheels for it. Obviously, the ability to come inside to be a scoring wide player. But for Columbus, a team that has lacked punch, has lacked the ability to get on the board, if they can give him a little bit of wide play, a little bit of distribution, Lucas Alarayan perhaps hasn't had a player like him since he's been with Columbus. So if he could be this distributor from the back end, and the wide players who are a little bit of a question mark for me on the Columbus side, if they can give him some service, this guy's going to tear up the league. So I do think he could play as a lone 9 if your wide players are dangerous and stretch out defenses and can give him a little bit of service. But I think on a 2 forward system, he would work at best. That said, he has the ability to do it all, especially in that final third. So I just think that regardless of formation or how things play out, he's going to be a difference maker in this league, no doubt about it.
18 goals scored in their first 14 matches for Columbus, 3 points out of a playoff spot in the East right now. And as the two of you were breaking this down, I literally had two other thoughts in my head, that one of them that you addressed. One, help out Zelarayan, and then I had that with a question mark. And then my second thought was, how does Caleb Porter screw this up?
Oh, that's harsh.
That's a fair question, especially with how things have played out. I don't know how his seat's not starting to get hot, if not, mildly blazing hot. But yeah, I mean, when you look at this squad and a lot of the expectations that you had coming into this season, Caleb has not done well, and he's had a hard time getting out of ruts in the past. And I feel like he's in a rut in this particular moment. So how can he mess it up? I have a hard time with Caleb because he's such a nice guy at times, especially in the media. He can be likable and almost charming at times, but then he could be a real jerk. And I think that if there is a battle with a guy like Cucho, who comes into this league with, I'm sure, the keys to whatever he wants to do, because that's how you get a player of this talent, and that's why he's a record signing. You have to know how to manage a player that comes in with that type of leverage. And I'm not saying you got to baby him, and I'm not saying that he's got to be the diva, but you have to be able to adapt and not use the cookie cutter to talk to every player. He's got to be a little bit different. So if things start to kind of butt heads between both of them, then that could be an issue. That's the way he could mess it up, because he could be that guy. I mean, for all the things that Caleb does well, he could be hard to deal with at times. So as long as he doesn't do that, and he knows how to control this player, and it sounds like it's all good and well, everything we're hearing, how much they wanted him, and it seems like everything's all peaches and cream. So as long as that stayed that way, it should be all right. So let's see what happens after the honeymoon stage is over, and the team starts to drop some points, or things get a little bit slow. So Caleb's going to have to be able to deal with it and manage a player of this caliber.
We're hearing moves that are being announced ahead of the window officially opening on July 7th. Lorenzo Insigne will be unveiled in Toronto on Friday. He can start playing on the 7th. Atlanta United with a couple of additions who can start playing on the 7th. Cucho can start playing on the 7th. One big thing about this upcoming window that we don't know is Carlos Vela. And we've ticked down another day in his contract with 7 days left. And I haven't heard anything about what could happen next for Carlos Vela. Have you?
I haven't, but after being in that locker room last week, I have a feeling that there is a sense of confidence that he will be there by the players, and by the little grin that Cherundolo gave me when I asked him about that month being over and how they dealt with it. And I like to look at body language, and I tend to think that I can read it well. To me, he sounded like a confident man that Carlos Vela was going to be there. He talked about that as time expires, and he gives me that. I mean, all he needed was the wink and the sound of the wink to happen. That's the way I took it. He certainly, Carlos Vela himself certainly left the door open for anything to happen. He talked about it being a business, and he wanted to be there. He liked the project, but at the end of the day, he's going to have to make that decision. But that just sounds to me like a guy that's on the negotiating table, who I do believe knows that, once again, there is leverage on his end. And by everything that we can see from LAFC, they know that their window is starting to close to a certain extent. There's players that they need to run away with and get a title. And bringing in Cellini, a guy who, I've criticized and everything, but they're thought process is he's going to help us win titles because we haven't made it past this part. So if you are really thinking that this is the moment and you're bringing a guy like Cellini and you're thinking that this is it, having a guy like Carlos who knows the process, who has the respect of his teammates, that, can make magic happen in any moment in time, who's a quality player, it all tells you that he's going to be here for the next 6 months and maybe after that. So I'm thinking a short-term deal, a year and a half, and then everybody parts way, everybody be happy as long as they get a title. But because of everything that's going on, the circumstances and what I see from LAFC, I think Carlos Vela will be here for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I'm shocked they haven't gotten to a deal being announced just yet. The Chivas talk has come up. They're definitely a club that could use him. Do you think that increases Carlos's leverage a little bit to have a club like Chivas linked with him on the other side of the border?
It depends who you are, man. If you ask me, Carlos Vela has never shown interest on going back to Mexico,
right,
unless he's using it just to, like you said, have a little leverage. But him as a person, he doesn't like that aspect of life in Mexico. The media and the way they approach the game is different. At this press conference here in Seattle, he had his Lakers hat. After the game, he talked to me about the NBA Finals, and we chatted it up about, what if it would have been a Game 7. The guy enjoys life here. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, he's always shown you that he's been more about other things than the game. He's talked about it since he was out abroad, that he enjoyed basketball and enjoyed other things. So I don't think he's a guy that's going to go down to a Chivas team where the expectations are high and the criticism is huge and you don't know how your family is going to be with the change of living from LA to Guadalajara. So there are just so many aspects that I don't think he wants in his life that, I wouldn't think that he's serious or he would take an offer from Guadalajara. But that's just me. Just once again, reading him as a person and going beyond the pitch and thinking about the man and not the soccer player, I just don't see it happening. So I think at the end of the day, yes, there's leverage because this LAFC team wants to win now. But there's also a little bit on LAFC side saying, hey, you're in LA, you're living good, you're getting paid. Just sign the damn thing.
I guess the question I'd have at this stage of it, because if this was easy, we'd already have a resolution one way or the other. If it was done, if it was easy to sort out, who ultimately has the leverage in your mind? Like who is the one who is going to dictate this? Will Vela take a deal that maybe he's not as happy with to stay, or will he demand a deal at a certain level, and if he doesn't get it, he walks?
That's a good question because I do believe that, as I just mentioned, there is some sort of parity and equality in the balance of what the player wants are and the intangibles of being here, and then the club's necessity. So I think at the end of the day, you have a standing game of chicken, and they're going to wait at the last minute, but they're both going to turn. They're both going to turn. I mean, that's just the way I see it. They're going to take it to the last minute. They're going to try to squeeze the juice and try to get as much as they can from one another. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there will be a resolution because it benefits both sides. It benefits LAFC. Yeah. It benefits Carlos Vela. So that's what I think it is. It's going to be just a game of chicken at the very end. Choop.
So then let me play the other side here for a second. We know that this game of chicken is going to go for the next 7 days. Why would I not, considering all the talk from Tommy Scoops months ago, where there's a framework, all they've got to do is sign it, and we get to this point, why would I, if I'm Carlos Vela and I think that I'm in control of the situation because, I'm the player and I can say yes or no, LAFC's got to come to me. Why would I not test the market internally in Major League Soccer and sit there and go, well, hey, Miami, Houston, you are the ultimate free agent in a week's time in Major League Soccer. I mean, this is like uncharted territory here. Why would Carlos Vela, I mean, we mentioned Liga MX, why would he not test the waters? Because if, say, Siegel in Houston sits there and says, I will cut you a check for $11 billion to be the face of this franchise going forward, why would you not try something like that?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point, and one that I wasn't really thinking about, just because it would be a huge deal. And we did talk about it in a Spanish show I did this weekend, and I even said, man, if I'm LA Galaxy, I'm trying to flip him from El Barrio. I mean, that's a player that's going to come help you out, especially with the miss that or bust that Acosta has been. So why not? So
could you imagine that,
Nico?
Imagine the Heat if the LA Galaxy on July 1st announce that they are signing free agent Carlos Vela?
Oh man, that would be a writer's dream and a fan's nightmare. And man, it would be craziness around the league. I mean, that would be an incredible moment. I haven't even thought about it that way. We've talked about it, right? I mean, you like to imagine it. We've done that. But saying it and seeing it, it's two different things, man. It would be craziness around the league if that was to happen. But you're right. At the end of the day, that's a good point. You're still staying in MLS. You're still making great money. You are the ultimate free agent. I think that perhaps gives Carlos a little bit more leverage if we think about it that way.
I'm almost starting to wonder if he lets the contract run out, and he might go back to LAFC, but he might not sign immediately. I don't know. Like this is uncharted territory. So
it is uncharted territory.
This next week's going to be fascinating with this. I do have a quote from Minnesota. If you'd like to hear it, Nico, about their decision
absolutely.
to extend
Please do. I'm still trying to, fathom that.
Let's see if CEO Sherry Ballard helps us fathom it. Adrian has been absolutely instrumental in driving competitive success. I look forward to working with Adrian and our entire team to achieve even greater levels of success.
Don't patronize me, man. Don't insult my intelligence like that. I mean, oh man, and maybe I'm being way too harsh on Heath, because
I'm with you.
He's the stand-up guy. He's held himself accountable at times, but once again, the best GMs in the planet, and I mean globally, they have to be raw, and they cannot marry to either a player or a coach, and tough decisions have to be made. And you look about Garth Lagerwey and the decisions he's had to make here. I'll tell you this. If in 2016, Brian Smetzer had not done a fantastic job and won that title, we might have not seen the dynasty that Seattle is today, because Garth would have cut ways with him. I mean, Brian put himself in a situation where there was no other way but to keep him. And he's shown you why, and he's been fantastic. But as a GM, you need to be able to make those tough decisions. And I feel like Minnesota hasn't done it, and they have gotten nothing in return. Success is a very complicated word, because has he won some games? Has he put you in situations where the team could have won something? Yes, but the ultimate success is not there, and that's what you want. That's what you want out of this league. You won the Gio Savareses, you won the Bruces and the Calebs and the Brian Smetzers. If you don't have them, then go out there and look for them. Otherwise, in a couple of months, you're going to be the San Jose Earthquakes, and you're going to be wondering why. Because you just did that. You just extended that relationship that was already toxic and wasn't getting you nowhere, man. Come on.
I'll take it a step further. And this is something that jumps out to me as I was looking more at what they've done. And 2020, he got to a Western Conference final. That's the biggest thing he's done. The MLS is back tournament, he got to a semifinal, if you want to take that one. Okay. Round of 16 a couple of times in the Open Cup. I guess he's won 2 playoff games and lost 3 now. Okay. What jumps out to me the most, looking at his numbers, is only one season did he, 2020 he might have as well, but barely, has he averaged in the realm of 1.5 goals scored per game. They've never been a team that has scored goals. 47 and 17, 49 and 18, 52 and 19, 36 in 21 games in 2020. That's your best season, no question about it. Plus 10 on goal differential. Only 2 seasons they've had a positive goal differential, by the way. But last year, only 42 goals in 34 games. This year, barely over a goal a game. You know, if you're even trying to find like, okay, well, you know, he's not always getting the success we want, but his teams are entertaining. No, they're not. Like, they're not. So it's, why are they developing young players coming through? No.
That was going to be my next thing. Have you seen Adrian Heath just bring up guys and have a way to develop the young players? If you look at this roster, man, it's just guys that you're bringing in and guys that you're pulling from other teams. You're trying to figure out. I can't think of a player that from when this team got into the league to this point that you're like, wow, look, Adrian really had an impact on them. You know, the way Ronnie had an impact on James Sands or Tavion Gray or whatever. You just haven't seen that. So it's tough, man. Once again, it's hard to understand. And at the end of the day, another losing season, and he's going to be, you think he'd be out, but you've already wasted that time where you could have gone and got somebody. So I just don't understand it.
Yeah, you re-upped with him through 24. Best thing he ever did was runner-up in the Open Cup in 19. That's the furthest he's gotten in anything. And they lost in the final. I don't know. They've re-upped, so now I don't think you let him go, even if they do have a losing season this year. And then what? Who knows? I guess the player he's maybe coached up the most is Robin Lod. Like, I don't have anybody else that he's developed and really helped get to the next level. You know, he's had a Sonny Dotson come through, Chase Gasper, like some good players he got out of the draft, but I don't know. I don't know what.
But I wouldn't say that he developed them, right?
Yeah.
I think Lod is probably the only one that you could think of that maybe he's hung around enough and he's gotten enough success that you could kind of say that. But I don't see it still.
Yeah, I feel like I'm reaching to try to find that, but I don't know. We do have an update out of Atlanta. Doug Robertson, who is speaking along with the media with Gonzalo Pineda. Doug tweets out that Pineda said Atlanta United is working on at least one more signing, possibly in the U22 slot. Interesting level of detail there from Gonzalo. Are you hearing anything? Because I know people are asking.
Yes. So I am on the prowl for a player that fits those descriptions. I'm not going to give you a positioning because if I do, then maybe someone's going to hear this show and scoop me. But yes, there's definitely a couple of players. I already got my guys out. I just put out something for Charlotte FC as well that you can look at in my Twitter. Talks in conversations again with Rodinier from Flamengo. And it sounds like Charlotte is looking for a right back, regardless of who that might be. Makes sense.
Really? They're already looking for a right back, even with Jalen Lindsay there?
Yeah, and awful. Yes.
It sounds
awful,
like I think is almost done. But Lindsay, they committed a lot to the local hometown guy, bringing him in from Kansas City. That's odd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard calling in to a lot of guys in Charlotte. It sounds like, yes, that there is an outlook for Lindsay and potential, but it seems like the team wants a more experienced guy because both of the guys who I put on my tweet are 29, 30. So it sounds like they do want somebody that maybe is going to come in and be impactful right now, right at this moment. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. It was kind of tough to get the information because Rodinei was more of a Miguel Angel Ramirez guy, someone that was kind of his call to go out and get him. He had him an international for a little bit. But, once I checked with a couple of sources, those checked out. So, boom, it goes right out there. But, yes, for Atlanta United, I am following a player that fits those descriptions, and we'll continue to see if we could maybe confirm anything with conversations, and we'll have it out.
Okay, let us know when you know. You gotta let us know, man. Come
on. But Atlanta looks all right, man. I think Gudiño bringing it in. I think that's an interesting guy. Once again, I saw both things of the argument. He is a guy that had a lot of potential, that when he first came out and he went to Porto or he went out abroad and you thought he was going to be the Ed guy, you saw the potential in what he could do. He hasn't been perfect, and he's been criticized at Guadalajara at times, but he is a big frame goalkeeper that is a good shot stopper and can manage the air services in well. So we'll see how that plays out. But Gonzalo Pineda just seems to be filling out some spots to give his team the best chance to just get better.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I think anytime you hear players coming in, it's like, oh, they're coming in to start. I don't think that's the case with either one directly. I think Gudiño could end up being the starter. He's been in that like 1A, 1B kind of situation a lot in his career where he's had time, but he hasn't locked down a number one spot. He's still young for a goalkeeper. He has all the potential to be that. Rocco Rios Novo's coming off of a really good performance, very different kind of goalkeeper. And he's got a few weeks to kind of solidify the spot, at least for a little while. But Gudiño is going to give competition, and Purata, I think, adds competition at center back, where George Campbell had a great day on the weekend. We know the potential with him just turning 21 years old. Alex DeJohn, the veteran, he's played well in his appearances. But now Purata brings something different than those two. He's maybe a little bigger, not so much a Campbell, but of DeJohn. Different kind of player than those. And he's going to compete with Alan Franco as well. So you've got internal competition now at some places where you were a little depleted due to injury.
And that's all you want. Look, that's something that I think Gonzalo learned here with the Seattle Sounders. Brian Smetzer is a guy who constantly quotes Pete Carroll and what the level of competition internally does for different positions. And I think you're going to see it here. I like what Rios Novo did over the last couple of games, including the friendly. I mean, he's the guy that just seems comfortable with his feet, seems to be smart coming out of the back and can create quick transitions. He himself in the goalkeeping department, I thought did well against a good Inter Miami team that got close, that created some chances. So despite being a man down, you saw a little bit of attempts from that attacking line, and I thought Rios Novos did all right. So that positioning battles are great to just hiking the level of play, hiking the level of competition, and that's all good for a team that has the talent and the potential to be in the playoffs, but they need to start getting some results, and that could be a little bit of that momentum shifter and maybe just start a little fire within that group.
What matchups are you looking at this weekend here in MLS? I know that Sporting is coming to town, and Sporting, we know what they did, denying us all this vision of a Western side U.S. Open Cup lower division semi, but Sporting's coming to town. They've got a little bit of momentum. That one I know is in your neck of the woods, but what other games are you looking at this weekend?
Yeah, the Kansas City is always a tough opponent, a tough team here. They always give Seattle a little bit of grief, at least. Despite the final result, is always a hard battle game, but they play with a lot of starters, especially in the attacking end, so that might play against their own advantage here in Lumen Field. So I think it's a game that Seattle should be able to win. Guillermo Gomez Andrade should be back in that back line with Jackson Reagan. Javier Arriaga suffered a hamstring injury that will keep him out for a couple of weeks. But Jackson Reagan and Yamar have done well, two big bodies. I think Seattle it will have a good game on this one. Raul still out for this one, but Freddie Montero hasn't done bad. You've seen what he can do. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good game. In terms of other matchups around the league, I'm interested in the Austin FC Dallas. That rivalry always interests me. I'm the new team. I'm the it thing. I've been here for a while, so respect my name. So I really want to see that one. Dallas has had a couple of bad results here lately, but they have the quality of play. I want to see Ferreira in this second half, if you will, of the season, continue to produce the way he has. So it'll be a good game. Austin, that is coming from winning the game with a guy missing in Pereira after getting that red card. I thought that they played well. So that's one that I'm interested on. Looking at here, Portland, Colorado. That's another good one for me. I want to see that one play out. Two good coaching teams. Once again, I know that Timbers is not high in the standings, but I go back to Gio Savarese and just my belief in him. They got a draw at LA Galaxy. Not a easy one, and they were still managed to do it. We talked about it with John earlier this week. Jimmy had a couple of chances to kind of put that second one away, didn't. But that's an interesting one for me. Colorado being the team that they are, well coached. I think that's a good one.
LAFC, Red Bulls, Philadelphia, NYC. We saw the combativeness of the Red Bulls last night with New York City. Some of the quotes were very entertaining coming out of that one from the Red Bulls. John Tolkien's becoming an interesting figure in this league. He said, obviously, we don't like them very much, and wherever you can get an edge, obviously, we're going to take it. We're a bit of a chippy, scrappy team. It's one way to describe the Red Bulls. Can they go out to LA and get a win?
Absolutely. Why not? They have the elements to do it. I think Seattle showed you a way of how to beat out LAFC, especially when Carlos Vela is not in top rhythm. He talked about being away from the game for a little bit with that injury, and he came on in the second half. I think New York Red Bulls is a good enough disciplined team that can make things difficult in the midfield, get a score ahead and really manage the game. I think Red Bulls could definitely do it. In New York on their end, man, that was a tough U.S. Cupping game, man. Thiago Andrade was the guy that tried to headbutt somebody and got a red card. He's just silly, man. I just don't get it.
And now that they go from the stress of playing the Red Bulls in a derby in an Open Cup match in the midweek to the stress of playing in Philadelphia with a similar kind of style, it's going to press you all over the place, try to get under your skin. After watching the Red Bulls get under NYC's skin, Philly is just licking their chops right now.
They have to be, and especially you just said it. I mean, you got a guy like a Brujo Martinez that's going to be bugging you all game and chomping out your ear. I mean, they better get it together, man, because that's just silliness. You're down 1-0, the game's still very much on the line, and you allow this moment, and you try to headbutt a guy right in front of the ref. Not that you shouldn't if he's not there, but I'm just saying, come on, man, really? That's what you're going to do? It is just a bad situation. This is what I'm talking about, John, when we talked about when a coaching of that magnitude leaves, man, and things like this happen, It makes you wonder, man, can you put it together? I'm not going to say that with Ronnie that had not happened, but maybe he didn't. I don't know. It gets me thinking a lot, right? So it was just a bad situation. It could play out bad for this upcoming game against Philadelphia, like you said. It's just a bad moment.
Yeah, it opens up the possibility of a trend starting. Let's see if it does. Niko, what else is coming up for you? What do you want to tease today that people need to come find you for?
Well, right now I'm all motors in. Every single transfer coming into the league. The game has kind of stepped up from Tommy Bogert with all the scoops and other guys around the league. So I got my work cut out for me. So there might be a stop of stories and interviews for a little bit until I put everything out there. So just follow at Rolo NW, Pulso Sports, for all your transfer needs and rumors. I might have to start go from my 3 source line to 2 because I can get it out scooped constantly. This Cucho Hernandez thing was one that, let's just say, I could have put out there, but I had a hard time believing, and it was too late. By the time I figured out that it was real, everybody was on it, and I hate being the guy that just confirms after 9 guys have already put it out there. So yeah, I'm gonna be out there. I gotta be on my A game. I realize that, and it's gonna be good. So Rolo NW, I promise a lot of rumors, a lot of transfers coming into the league.
We'll be paying attention, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Niko.
All righty, boss.
Be good.
Make sure you are following him, El Rolo NW, on the social medias, Pulso Sports as well. Tomorrow, we will be done at 10 o'clock. It's a little bit earlier flight for me heading up to Toronto. So we'll be done at 10. We will talk to Greg Garza tomorrow morning on our Friday free kick. The MLS weekend whip around might be done separately. So stay tuned for that. But we'll set the tone for everything first 30 minutes. We'll talk to Greg. It'll be a shorter show. I like Toronto, Coco. Josie Altidore is not there anymore to steal throw-in, so I'm not going to freak out, I don't think. I like Toronto. Montreal is my favorite trip in the league, but I do like Toronto. Looking forward to watching some Stanley Cup playoff action in Canada. That should be fun. Do that on Friday night, and then we're coming back Sunday morning. So fun trip. Looking forward to it. And then next week is a longer trip to New York with the Red Bulls and NYC on the docket. Yes. If you guys did not hear my massive freak out about Toronto last season during the kerfluffle, then your baseless accusations, you would know that they are wrong. I just want people to stop booing Michael Bradley all the time. It's been like 5 years, man. Come on now. You heard the clip, people. Jeez, I lost it like I've never lost it about Toronto losing it trying to create a brawl. That was not a cover-up. That was me finding another octave in my voice I didn't know I had. Hopefully nothing like that happens. Hopefully we're yelling about goals and such on Saturday night. So tomorrow, 9 to 10, it'll be an earlier show. Be on the lookout for the whip around separately. And then Saturday from Toronto will be on the Odyssey app, will be on the Atlanta United app, will be on 92.9 The Game. So till tomorrow, much plata, y'all.
Much plata, y'all.